You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaru Abubakar has resigned his appointment on Monday. Now, according to the presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga, Mr. Abubakar said he was quitting on health grounds in a letter to the President Tinubu. He has accepted the resignation and thanked Mr. Abubakar for his service to the nation. Now, President Tinubu will likely inform the Senate of Badaru's successor later this week. Badaru Abubakar, 63, was a two-term governor of Jigawa State from 2015 to 2023. He was appointed as minister on August 21, 2023 by President Tinubu. His resignation comes amid President Tinubu's declaration of national security emergency, which plans to elaborate on its scope in due course. So yes, this is the conversation that we're going to be speaking about. We were talking about it earlier on the newspaper review. We've seen the Minister of Defense, a very pivotal person in Nigeria, saying that he's resigning due to health reasons. Oftentimes, all we hear is health. And, not that maybe I don't think I'm capable enough for this position, or with everything happening, with the level of insecurity happening in Nigeria, I do not think that I'm the right person, for the job. But we're hopeful. We hear that the president is going to be bringing a successor. But Atoma, just to start with, what are you expecting from the new Minister of Defense?
First of all, is what am I expecting the government will look at before choosing somebody? Because the Minister of Defense that just resigned and his Minister of State do not have security backgrounds. They were governors of states, and now we need somebody with security background that has been in the security sector all his life. We need somebody that has not only been there but has scored very high marks in the discharge of his duties, and we need that person right now. Another thing I would like to appeal to Nigerians is that the new man comes, please give him all the support you need, and I hope that while he is doing his job, he's not going to suffer interferences from here or there, So two things I'm looking for, three things actually. A man that is a career security personnel that has a lot of knowledge and has practiced for several years, and has handled a case like this, maybe in a smaller scale, but has handled a case like this before. Number two, we should support him as Nigerians. And number three, we should not interfere with his day-to-day duties.
But Olamide, for me, I'll say that the person coming, we don't have so much time in our hands. So it's not like we're waiting for you to take 2 to 3 years to make sure that you end insecurity, because it's happening day in, day out. And whenever I speak of insecurity, I love to elaborate the fact that it's happening. Like, we see the news every day on social media. So whoever the person is, okay, I hear that our guest has joined us. We have our guest now. Joining us for this conversation is Director General of the International Institute of Professional Security. He is also a security expert, Tony Ofoyetan. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm fine. Are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us on this very, very important conversation. We're just talking about it. The Minister of Defense in Nigeria has officially resigned, and he stated health reasons is why he is resigning. He's leaving at a very critical time where Nigerians are facing insecurity issues. I just want to start with this. At this point where we are right now and having the defense minister resigning, what do you make of it? And when are we going to hear of his successor? Because if we look at it, we do not have much time in our hands.
Let me start from the second. A successor coming in, whether now or in a week's time or in a month's time.
In a month's
time? It's not
time?
going to impede on... I said whether now or in a month's time. It's not going to impede on the activities of the security agencies, as it were. But I expect that Mr. President, within the shortest period of time, would definitely name a successor. When I saw the news, my first response was just a soft landing. I'm not even only expecting him to resign, I'm also expecting Matawale to resign. These are critical offices. At this critical moment, we need core professionals, either from the Navy, from the Army, from the Air Force. We need people whose teeth have been cut professionally especially when it comes to security. These people are politicians that understand basically the act of politics and administration in their respective states. Good enough, he has done his best, although his best was not good enough. And I'm excited that he has thrown in the tower, whether on medical ground or whatever ground. What we expect Mr. President to look now has to do with core professional, people that have been there before, people that understand the art of warfare, the art of insurgency, the art of counterinsurgency, guerrilla warfare and the like, and of course the antidotes. These are the type of people we'll actually want there. And I must say something very quickly that it shows that the president is working now. Yes, and I say that because I've been one of the stronger critics of Mr. President's approach towards security. But what I'm seeing immediately after the declaration of the state of emergency in the security sector, we saw that he has, in principle, approved that state police is just a sacrosanct truth. We have also seen that he has also ordered, the withdrawal of all police officers attached to VIPs. Now we are seeing the Minister of Defense resigning. I'm expecting a lot of heads to roll. But more importantly, if he has to succeed, that means that he has to now go into the political class and into the sponsors of terrorism. If not so, it will be as good as cutting the tree from the head. But if you want to uproot the menace and the cancer called terrorism in this country, he must go to the root. He must identify the financiers, the sponsors, be it at domestic level or at international level. He must be able to nexus their financing to terrorism and decisively deal with them through the instrumentality of legality. Ensure that those that ought to be decisively dealt with, that becomes a major deterrent. And one thing I expect also Mr. President to be thinking about is advocates of terrorism and advocates of supporters of terrorism. He should make sure, please, he should quieten them. The likes of Gumi and the like is not helping matter, as it were. We are talking of a society where we should be talking about peace. We are not talking of a society where we speak for bandits or speak for terrorists and the like. I think Mr. President should come all out in its totality against everything that either surreptitiously, covertly, or overtly tends to support the activities of terrorism in this country. Should be quieting totally. Now with that, we'll now begin to see the fruit of what he is doing. If not so, we'll still see these sponsors still regroup and the like. Yes, please.
All right, I'm going to put you in a spot. If you were mentioned as the replacement for the Minister of Defense, what are the things you will ask for?
One is that I am going to be asking for high-power technological intervention. I mean high-power technological intervention. Right. I'm going to be asking for that. What I'm also going to be asking for is a proper audit of all security agencies in the country. Those that have been recruited into the security agencies through mischievous means, I would have to ask that they go. That is one thing I will be looking at. And of course, I would also have to need the political will of Mr. President with respect to those international agencies, international organizations, CSOs, NGOs, and the like, whose responsibility or whose activities have been inimical to our counter-terrorism operation, irrespective of the country they come from, irrespective of whether they say they are Red Cross, Blue Cross, polio vaccination, and the like, and they use that as surreptitious means to begin to either supply arms, supply technical support, supply funding, supply medications and logistics and strategy to terrorist organizations. I'll need the political will of Mr. President to ask them to get out of the country immediately too, irrespective of whose all is God, as it were. And of course, I will need Mr. President's full support, as it were, to be able to decisively deal with those at military level that are seen as compromised, no matter their rank. no matter their rank, across border. Those that have, yes, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Ofoyetan. Very passionate. Essentially, if we're honest about it, the Defense Ministry has effectively, in this moment, lost its head right in the midst and in the middle of rising insecurity, the likes of which we've never seen in the country. My question is this: do you think, if at all, there will be any sort of, whether small or big, immediate impact on policing and military operations across the country? Because you can't tell me that the Minister of Defense has resigned and there's not going to be any hiccups along the way or any sort of dent in our current security landscape.
No, in situations like this, what normally happens is that the terrorists want to wait. I want to understand the body language and the direction of Mr. President before they take any decisive decision. Now, in most cases, the attack will come when a new minister has been appointed. And the reason is this: their psychological operation. They want to tell the new minister that we are on ground, irrespective of who you think you are. Be rest assured that we are capable to match you man for man. Now, at that point in time, whosoever is coming on board, they give him, like what you call a warning shot, like that. So it is the person that is going to take over that will stand his ground and say it is no longer business as usual, as it were. So for now, I expect that the terrorists will have to understand the terrain, understand and look at where the president is going to. And another thing is that the political class and those that are sympathetic to the act of terrorism will now have to lobby and pressure Mr. President to put their own there, to put somebody that is sympathetic quietly. We may see him as a very big man, as ex-military, as this, as that, but they know that over time he has been sympathetic to their cause. Either he has employed their people in the military, either he has sponsor-funded, or either he has been in meeting in one way or the other, or maybe he has even been part and parcel of them from beginning. Now, these are the names that these people will push across to Mr. President and try to convince Mr. President that this group of people are good enough. For me, Mr. President should move out of the box, think out of the box, operate out of the box, and also appoint out of the box.
Wow. Beautiful. And I am very, very convinced that you understand this topic we're discussing because of some of the things that you said regarding, what has been going on, regarding our security situation in the country. But we have soldiers who are died in the war front. We had people who had even told us that while they were in the theater of war, they saw these terrorists, they know these bandits, they know where they stay, and they were not given the order to, give them the first salvo or probably take them out. And if they did, something else was going to happen. Do you think, with the US saying that we are willing to work with Nigeria, and then we also met with them at the Congress, having this conversation, how do you think we can get this intelligence? Who is going to help us with this intelligence? Is it from within? Is it from outside of the country? Even though accusing fingers had been pointed to some of these international communities, how should we navigate these murky waters?
Well, I think the problem is that we are not bereaved of intelligence. We are only bereaved of people who have the mind to be able to execute the intelligence. Severally, we've heard of reports of intelligence that have been given even before an attack occurs. Even the last abduction and the like, you will hear stories and counter stories about that from security agencies. The problem is not with the availability of intelligence. The problem is whether the intelligence will be used. And that is why Mr. President must be very intentional about who is going to become the next Minister of Defense, as it were. It should be somebody that is able to play 100% his own agenda without thinking of any other person. International communities, they all have their own agenda. Now, it may sound very good, it may sound right, I agree with you. Because for me, as a president, one of the things I expect Mr. President to do is to take over all mining sites in Nigeria. All mining sites in Nigeria. Mining is part of, it's in the exclusive legislative list. So the federal government has that legal power. It should take over all. Because mining sites is also one of the reasons why some of these foreign countries you are talking about, we arm bandits, we arm terrorists to dislocate communities so that they can have access in and out. Now that is a truism. It's not what you call a conspiracy theory. Yeah. It has happened. We have seen, yes. So if a government is able to take over and manage mining sites with the adequate security, we will not degenerate. Because if not so, a place like Zamfara, Kaduna, Plateau, or your state and the like, over time may degenerate to become Democratic Republic of Congo, the richest yet the poorest. So these are things governments, if you are going to talk about holistic security, it's not just about terrorism. Terrorism has its own religious wing. Banditry has its own criminal wings and all those stuff like that. Government has to come all out against all these types of crime and criminality in the country, and to be able to successfully do it. If government is not taking over mining sites, government will not be able to successfully tame the activities of foreigners, as it were, when it comes to mining of mineral resources and all those stuff. It should be properly 100% under the control of government. Now, that is one area I think that government should be able to, Then, of course, it's good that Mr. President has said that clear all the forest. In clearing the forest, I look at it, it should be a geocombing strategy. Now, when I say geocombing, I simply mean that everything should be simultaneously coordinated. If you don't simultaneously coordinate everything all at once, you will see that when you are moving to forest in the northwest, they will move to forest in the northeast. When you get to forest now they begin to move around because they know where you are coming. They also have their own interests. They also have their own informant. So Mr. President should be able to ask the NSA and the Ministry of Defense and all the service chiefs and the police IG to put up a strategy to ensure that a proper coordination and combing of all our forests simultaneously at the same time. It can be a week operation, it can be a month operation, it doesn't matter, they know the duration to apply to it. But everything must be coordinated in such a manner that you come to the west, you will meet first there. You run to the east, you meet it first there. You run to the north, you meet it there. So there is nowhere to run to as far as the Federal Republic of Nigeria is concerned. It must be coordinated at the same time. If you do it one after the other, you would have succeeded in chasing saddles, because as at the time you are getting there, they are no longer there again.
Amazing, Mr. Ofoyetan. I'll say you do really know your onions this morning. I'm really enjoying the conversation. But I just want to do some follow-up questions with you. You said it could be today, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 1 month. But I want to ask you, Nigerians are worried on social media that we do not have a defense minister. It has brought some kind of panic. So for you, the first part of my question is that for you, how long do you think is appropriate for us to have a new defense minister, thinking about the recent insecurity we've been seeing in Nigeria? Also, you said something. You said the bandits will not attack now. They will attack when a new defense minister has been put in place. But now, since we know this, what are we doing to make sure that that doesn't happen? Because right now we have this information. You have said it. What are we now doing to make sure that that doesn't happen? Or are we waiting for it to happen for the minister to now stamp his foot on the ground? Because then people are going to die.
For the first aspect of it, I can assure you that the president that I know, he already knows the person that he's going to use as a replacement. But he will look at the political landscape to be able to know when to announce that name. But I don't expect him announcing the name maybe within the week. But that's what I expect. Anyway,
but what's the appropriate time for you? What time do you think is the appropriate time for us to have a new defense minister? For you, what time do you think is appropriate?
Maybe maximum of a fortnight.
Okay.
Maximum of a fortnight for me. Because there are a lot of things that are attached to the appointment of a new defense minister. Maybe a fortnight, and the only thing I would say at this point in time is if he's going to look at anybody within the military, because a minister of defense must be somebody that is balanced in temperament, somebody that is strong at heart, balanced in temperament. So look at between the Navy, most probably, somebody extremely balanced in temperament and cerebral enough to be able to carry out the agenda of Mr. President. Now that is as far as the appointment of the Minister of Defense is concerned. Now, for the other part of it, I think the NSA has that responsibility to be able to ensure that because NSA is the coordinating hub for all security agencies in the country. Somebody like me, I've advocated that NSA should be removed at a time because he was more or less behaving like a politician rather than a core security professional. NSA is not supposed to be somebody that is so visible to everybody. Not at all. His own is coordinate every activities of security agencies in the country and bring out implement the strategic security plan of the nation, as it were. Not hard, not even seen at all. So if the NSA understand that role, that means that even the absence of this chief of defense staff now is not going to be very conspicuous. But if he does not understand that role now, that means that office will be very, very conspicuous. Because if in another 1 hour time, critical decision has to be taken and he's not there or it's not forthcoming, I'm sure you know the implication. But I expect something better than that.
All right.
Okay, well, are we looking at better days ahead as far as security is concerned in Nigeria, taking into consideration that the average Nigerian on the street now understands how dangerous and the kind of situation that we find ourselves. At the bottom of it, we'll still go back to how soon will Mr. President appoint a replacement minister of defense. But what is the relevance of the population supporting the new minister in executing his duties?
Well, for me, whosoever is coming there should not expect immediate support. Whosoever is coming there should be able to earn his or her support.
Okay.
Nigerians are not going to support anybody that is coming there just because they mention your name or they announce your name. Nigerians are going to support the new defense minister on the ground that within the first few days, few months that of his appointment, he has done and taken steps that makes terrorism and crime or criminality to go down drastically. But before that, I think I also want to encourage the security agencies, the police, the military formation to do anticipatory attacks. They should not be reactionary. They should not just sit down and say, after all, the defense minister is not on ground. For now, they know the camps of the terrorists. I'm aware that the Air Force recently had done one of the highest bombardments in the history of Nigeria's counter-terrorism has been executed in the last 2-3 weeks. Yes, the Air Force has done excellently well in the past 2-3 weeks, bombarding all the camps of. You won't hear much about all those, and I like that.
Yeah.
But they have done excellently well in making sure that all their camps and the like are well bombarded. And I think that is coming out of the Donald Trump threat. But I think we should sustain it beyond the Donald Trump threat. It should not take a foreigner to prompt us to do the needful.
Exactly.
Anticipatory attacks should be continuous.
All right.
You should be able to attack the terrorists in such a manner that they don't have time to gather together. They don't have time
totally agree with you, Mr.
They
Tony.
must always be on the run.
Yeah, thank you so much. Totally agree with you. You're such a delight to interview. Thank you for your insights. It was a pleasure having you on the show this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
All right, it's still TVC Breakfast now. As Nigeria seeks to curb import dependence, Nisani is driving a new wave of industrial and technological innovation, reshaping local production capacity from the ground up. Join us for this very important conversation just after the break.